Yeah, a very good afternoon to all of you, and sincere apologies for the delay. I am CMA Yogindra Pal Singh, Secretary to the Sustainability Standard Board of the Institute. I welcome you all to this second webinar of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series, organized by Sustainability Standard Board of ICMAI. Today's topic for this webinar is balancing prosperity with posterity, the role of SDGs in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So we have with us CMA Dr. Ashish Thate, Chairman of Sustainability Standard Board, under whose guidance this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series is being organized. We also have with us CMA Venkateshwaran Ramakrishnan sir, who is our distinguished resource person for today's session. So before we start this session, let's play Institute's anthem.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
Yeah. Now I would like to give you a brief about the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, an ancient Sanskrit phrase translates to the world is one family. This profound concept emphasizes the interconnectedness and interdependence of all living beings on earth. When applied to the context of sustainability, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam becomes a guiding principle for responsible and ethical environmental stewardship. Sustainability involves meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The linkage between Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and sustainability lies in recognizing the planet as a shared home for all its inhabitants. This interconnectedness worldview encourages individuals and societies to consider the broader impact of their actions on the global ecosystem. By embracing Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, people are inspired to adopt sustainable practices that prioritize harmony with nature, ethical resource consumption, and environmental conservation. This interconnected perspective promotes a sense of collective responsibility, urging communities and nations to work together to address global challenges such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and resource depletion. In essence, the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam aligns with the core principles of sustainability by fostering a mindset that values the well-being of entire planetary family. It calls for a holistic approach to development that respects the delicate balance of nature and promotes a sustainable coexistence for the benefit of present and future generations. In view of the essence of both the topics, the Sustainability Standard Board of the Institute decided to organize Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam webinar series on second and fourth Friday of every month on diverse areas of sustainability. So now I would like to request CMA Dr. Ashish Thate, Chairman of Sustainability Standard Board, to address the participants. Over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Yogindarji, for giving me opportunity today on this auspicious day of beginning of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series to speak. I'm sitting in one of the programs, so I may not be able to speak at much length, but must appreciate the efforts of our own sustainability standard board member, Dr. Ranjit Krishnan, who has taken a lot of efforts to start this series. Rather, I should say restart this series. This was there earlier, but due to some or other reasons, we couldn't continue that series earlier. But now we are dedicated to start the series Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series under the banner of Sustainability Standard Board. So my request to all of you is keep watching the Institute website. Every second and fourth Friday, we have decided to have the session between 4 p.m. to 5:15 or 5:30 p.m. On this in this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series. See, sustainability has gone a miles ahead what we had thought about sustainability, ESG, etc. in last 10 years. So, what we call it is in general way that whatever way we have received this earth, whatever way we have received the environment to the world, the same way we are supposed to transfer this environment to our kids also, to the next generation also. This is what the basic concept of sustainability is. So my request to all our members to attend this series. We will have a different topics in this series, and also I'm very thankful to Venkateshwaran Ramakrishnan sir, who is today's speaker, who will be speaking about the SDGs as well, because that's the beginning of sustainability where it all started so many years back. So from there now we have come to a BRSR and then ESG and CSR, and I mean so many things, carbon credit and so many things which has gone ahead in the sustainability starting from SDGs. So it's a good to begin with the SDGs and understand what are the SDGs and how it is going to help us in future about the SDGs. So thank you so much to our Venkateshwaran Ramakrishnan sir, member of our Sustainability Standard Board, representative of SEBI on our board. So thank you so much, sir. Besides that, members must have seen that on the website, on the left-hand side, we have created a separate web page for the Sustainability Standard Board. So there you can go and click on the SSB and on the Sustainability Standard Board, and there you will find a lot of activities which are performed, which we are going to do, or which has been done in the sustainability by the Sustainability Standard Board are listed on the SSB has its own page. So you can go there and you can see our activities as well. So my best wishes to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series, especially to the first section today. And again, once again, a special thanks to Dr. Ranjit Krishnan, who has taken all the effort to start this series. Thank you so much. Back to you, Yoginder Pal Singh. Please unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you, sir. So now I would like to request participants that at the end of the session, we will be taking up the questions on the topic. So please do post your questions in the chat box, mentioning your name and membership number. So before we go ahead with the session and hand over to CMA Venkateshwaran Ramakrishnan sir, I would like to give you a brief introduction of him. CMA Venkateshwaran Ramakrishnan is a presently Deputy General Manager in both Systematic Stability Unit and Data Governance Unit in the Department of Economic and Policy Analysis at Securities and Exchange Board of India. He has earned his Master's in Public Administration with specialization in Economics Policy Management from Columbia University in the city of New York after securing a fellowship. He is since then one of the program ambassadors in South Asia. He is also a fellow member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, a Master's in Economics, postgraduate diploma holder in Securities Law, and a postgraduate diploma holder in Goods and Services Taxation. He is the SEBI nominee on the Sustainability Standard Board of the Institute, and he was a member of Indirect Taxation Committee of the Institute. In SEBI, he has worked in the Office of Chairman, Integrated Surveillance Department, and Department of Economics and Policy Analysis, and was an adjudicating officer. He had been on deputation to the Financial Stability and Development Council, housed in the Ministry of Finance for 2 years. He has undergone in-person training programs at Asian Development Bank, US SEC, IMF institutes in India and Singapore, Chicago University Booth, School of Business, and World Bank. We are very grateful to him for taking out time of his busy schedule and kindly agreeing to undertake this session for the knowledge enrichment of our members and students. So now I hand over the session to CMA Venkateshwaran sir.
Good evening, Ashish. Good evening, Yoginder. Good evening, all the members of the institute and students. Good evening, Ranjit and thank you for this opportunity to share some thoughts on a subject which is very passionate. I'm passionate about. So I would like to go directly to the presentation because that will help me remain focused on this. Is it? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, so I am sure it is in slide share mode now. It's presentation mode only. Okay. So thank you. I'm starting my talk first. So a good introduction of the idea behind Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam has already been given, and I compliment the institute, especially the Sustainability Standards Board, to have chosen this particular theme for its webinars because it fits very well with the mandate of the Sustainability Standards Board of the ICMAI. Now, today, what I am planning to do is actually to have a presentation and it will be covering actually it's not moving. Okay, send live, that's it. Okay. What is happening? Earlier it was. Okay. From here. Okay. Can you see the second slide? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. So sorry for that small time lag. Basically, I will be covering, what is it that the theme is all about, especially in the context of the topic that I have chosen, which is balancing prosperity with posterity, the role of SDGs in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And then I will get into the topic of Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs and what is it that SDGs have to play with regard to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And I will be in the last part or the concluding part, I will be throwing some light on SDG Index of India, which is actually prepared and disseminated by the Niti Aayog. Now, Yoginder said, but I have a different or another perspective about it. So Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the term actually is taken from one verse in Maha Upanishad, and it says, Ayam Nija Paro Vedi Ganana Likhu Chetasam Udara Charitanam Tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So if I just put this in English, the narrow-minded people, they will think about, oh, this thing or this good, it belongs to me. That particular thing or good belongs to another person or to others. Whereas the broad-minded or those who are having, the vision of thinking very broadly, the broad-minded people, they will think that the whole world, that itself is one family. Now, this is the perspective that I would like to say that, it's not just looking into, what is mine or what is yours. That is actually what has resulted in what we can say as a skewed development, or earlier we were calling as economic growth. Now that concept has progressed to development. And that development is now, as SDG is saying, it is emphasizing on sustainable development. And as chairman of the SSB rightly said, it is about, bequeathing on the posterity, at least what we have inherited from our forefathers. So if you look at that way, what is it that this has suddenly, or over a period of time gathered so much importance of one earth, one family? Why is it that we are suddenly finding such an emphasis on such a concept? That you have to just look at it, how the world has developed, especially in the aftermath, or during and in the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution. Now, in that sense, I would like to first share with you, to give the proper background of the topic and the importance of sustainable development. So let us look at what was economic growth during and in the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution. So I have taken actually 1 century, that is 1900 to 2000 data. And when I look at it, I am finding that world GDP at constant prices, so it is adjusting for inflation, it increased by 19 times. So what it was in 1900 compared to that one in 2000, end of 2000, the calendar year 2000, it was 19 times that one, and that has resulted in an average annual growth rate of 3%. Population growth, on the other hand, that also increased significantly, and world population, which was 1.6 billion in 1900, it was 6.3 billion in 2000. So that actually means that there were 4 times increase in the world population. GDP, or the output, had increased by 19 times. Now, simple mathematics will make you feel that, okay, so if global output or income has increased by 19 times, population increased by only 4 times, definitely you are right, you guessed it. The per capita GDP has also increased, and it is about 5 times, from 1900 to 2000. Now, what is the problem that has crept in? I mean, this looks very, very rosy thing. Now, that is the issues that have led to a rethinking. And the issues are like this. First is that before Industrial Revolution happened, the average growth of the population, world population, in the 1000-year preceding the Industrial Revolution, that is about 1750, that was actually only 0.1%. Now that 0.1% is actually now, if you look at 1900 to 2000, that 100-year period, that was 1.4%. So population explosion is what we have seen in that particular 20th century. Now, in spite of that also, and also because of that also, per capita income has increased. So more number of people getting work, that means that more output is there. But there were some other factors also which helped in getting 19 times growth in the GDP, which was technological progress, which was higher total factor productivity, because when there is technology, all the factors of production will be giving more output, more efficiency. So that is what actually the higher total factor productivity. And also when you are looking at, that is another sense of, like Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam was that, like division of labor and specialization. So there were, some jobs, some tasks which were developed, which were done in one particular place, not for just that particular locality or for that country or for that continent, but for the whole world. So what I am saying is that has resulted in movement of capital across borders, what we call as cross-border capital flows, and also international trade. Now, this is what actually was resulting in that growth in the GDP. But today, this actually is, the factor productivity, the technological progress, and also the addition to the factors of production. Today now we know that the population has, the growth of population has become steady. These type of facts meant that if we have to ensure that people are getting, much better life than what they had one generation before, then you need to think about a alternate path, because all these type of things, if it is going as is usual, it will result in depletion of the resources, and that is what actually has resulted in this thinking of what could be a alternate path to development. And another thing also, of course, you people are aware of many of the happenings around the world, which says that climate change. Two things I will emphasize because people have read about it, and today's topic is more confined to SDG. Two things I will say. One is that industrial revolution, it ensured that, or it resulted in anthropogenic or human resultant factors causing the climate change. And that climate change today is happening at a much faster pace, and also the extent of the damage is unprecedented in history. Every year we are seeing, the damages that are caused is much higher than what it was 1 year before, similar event 1 year before or 2 years before, whatever it is. Second thing that I also would like to emphasize before you is that a local event, an Indian incident. I'm not, that's why I'm telling you, be very brief. One of the news that we were reading in the December, in January, is that last year when Kashmir was attracting lot of tourists, this year, December, January, tourists were not going to Kashmir. The reason being that many places there were no snow at all. Of course, it has come in the recent weeks, but this is the level of problem that you are facing, where actually people could identify snow and all the things that that tourism will bring to that particular state in winter. Everything was missing, which is not the case. So this is the first year, and so this is why I'm telling you. So these are the two things that what I am telling you. I will not dwell into many such instances, because this is actually what is making people think about what could be that we can think about a sustainable development, and that is where the SDG, so Sustainable Development Goals or Goals for Sustainable Development, and let us look at that term. Goal will stand for target, so target for sustainable development, but sustainable would look at one thing where it will be actually able to thrive on its, rather than reducing the resources it has used, it will either maintain that resources at the stable level or even build upon to that one. And development is in the sense that people are able to exercise whatever are their resources and be in a position to lead a tomorrow's life at least equal to today's life or even in a better manner. So this is what people today tell about sustainable development, and chairman had mentioned about sustainable development goals, SDGs. Now, if I look at it, this SDG is actually the predecessor of the Millennium Development Goals, which the UN had adopted in its Millennium Summit in September 2000, and it was there for 15 years. Now, after that, we looked at this particular thing of how to look at it, making it a sustainable model, and that is which resulted in adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals by all the member nations of the United Nations in September 2015. And there are 17 goals, and they are split across 169 targets. Now, what I have done is that let's look at some of the, all the goals I will present before you, but some of the data which will actually make very clear to all of you what is the extent of the problem. Because see, today, we may have India being such a large country, much variances will be there across states, across regions, but still then we may find that there are problems or acute deficiencies which we may not have noted. Only if we have that data that will make things clear. So I would, rather than going into country cases, I will look at the most acute of the problem, which will make the things very clear to you. So I'm coming to the Sustainable Development Goals. The first one as you can see, is the no poverty. And let me tell in the beginning, these are all goals which are adopted, which are set by all the countries under the auspices of the United Nations, keeping 2030 as a target. And today it's 2024 running. And one factor that might have, slowed down the progress is the COVID-19 pandemic. Still then, looking at where we are today compared to where we should have been, it's my personal conviction that we lag behind in many of these goals. Still, let's look at what are the things that are there. So first is no poverty, which means that to end poverty in all the forms everywhere by 2030. Now, in 2015, when we adopted this goal, more than 700 million people, that is about 10% of the world population, lived in extreme poverty, which is defined as living at less than $1.9 per day. And even before COVID-19, baseline projections had suggested that 6% of the global population would still be living in extreme poverty by 2030. COVID-19, because it affected many people's livelihood, it added 71 million more people to the people who are in the bracket which falls under extreme poverty. Let's go to the next one. Next goal is zero hunger. It says that to end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. Now, you look at, one of the things that has happened in India, which is basically, everybody knows, but the Food Security Act was passed by the government of India. Why I mentioned this is that, now if you look at these 17 goals, I mean, Chairman rightly mentioned about BRSR and all stuff that has fallen. I also want to emphasize this point, taking 1 minute out of this SDG discussion, that these SDGs are actually, if you look at it, are the cornerstone of, like what you said, BRSR, and BRSR draws heavily from the national guidelines, and that for national guidelines for responsible business conduct, that also can be mapped to this one. Corporate social responsibility, that also can be mapped to this one. And similarly, if you look at many of the policies that the state governments and the central government have followed, everything, in one way or the other can find a mapping to these 17 SDGs that we are talking about. So I mentioned about the Food Security Act. Now, the thing is that 2 billion people did not have access to safe, nutritious and sufficient food in 2019. More than 690 million people were undernourished in 2019. Many of them were there in Asia and Africa. In 2019, 144 million children under the age of 5 were stranded and 47 million were affected by wasting. Goal number 3 says it is good health and well-being. What it translates into is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Reason is that if we are having a healthy population, we can build prosperous societies. Now, what are the numbers looking at? In 2018, estimated 19.4 million children did not receive the essential vaccines during the first year of life. In 2017, only around 1/3 to 1/2 of the global population was covered by essential health services. Or an additional 18 million health workers are needed, especially in the low and lower middle income countries, to achieve universal health coverage by 2030. Now, we at times come across national news channels saying that, lack of ambulance facility has resulted in, this event. So this is actually, what I am saying that, look, I mean, there are pockets even within India where good health and well-being, that remains a goal where a lot of development can happen. Next is quality education. In the case of quality education, what the goal says is that we have to ensure inclusive and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning. So that is also a very important aspect that has been included in the goal. About 258 million children and youth were out of school in 2018. Now, when you look at this 258 million, it is 1/5 of the global population in that age group. So that is what actually 20% of the children and the youth, they were out of school. 5.5 million more girls than boys of primary school age were out of school in 2018. By April 2020, close to 1.6 billion children and youth were out of school. This is actually, the growth in number, the bump in the number is on account of COVID-19 pandemic. But in this one, as in the case of India, as in the case of other parts of the country also, the silver lining is that global adult literacy rate stood at 86%, and youth literacy rate, that is actually for the people aged 15 to 24 years, that stood at a higher level of 92%. Now, next is gender equality. So much is now spoken about that one. Central government recently passed the Women's Reservation Bill. So what is it that is meant by gender equality goal is that to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. From the perspective of the CMA, I would like to share that in 2019, women held only 28% of the managerial positions worldwide. So this actually, is like ultimately we are looking at, many of us in the profession may be looking at getting a job in the job rather than starting the practice. So if you look at it, in the managerial positions worldwide, women held only 28%. So this is all about the gender equality goal. The next goal is about clean water and sanitation. What it means is that we need to ensure access to safe water resources and sanitation for all. So we actually have been seeing Modi government pushing a lot for the preventing open defecation. This is another one, I will say the priority which could be mapped to one of the SDGs. Now, the clean water, if I am giving an example, 2.2 billion people around the world still lack safely managed drinking water, including 785 million without basic drinking water. I repeat that number, 785 million people in the world, they don't have even the access to basic drinking water. So next goal is about affordable and clean energy. Here also, if you look at it, today we are talking about discovery of lithium reserves in Jammu and Kashmir, because that will help in the production of battery. So that is one thing. And also we are talking about large scale investments by companies in either green hydrogen or even India emerging as a hub for electric vehicles. So if you look at that way, what this goal is targeting is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. 789 million people around the world lack access to electricity, and 548 million alone in sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, in the last few years, we kept reading about, this many villages have been electrified newly. So this is again, what I'm saying is that where the national priorities, they actually flow from the Sustainable Development Goals. Improve access to clean and safe cooking fuels and technologies is a prerequisite for 2.8 billion people. 2.8 billion people is as good as more than 1/3 of the total world population. Next is decent work and economic growth. Now, I am as mentioned, working in the securities market regulator, but all of you know that in the case of Reserve Bank of India, which is the central bank, the mandate is not only just price stability, which is, controlling of inflation, but it's also about economic growth, how it balances these two. So in this goal, what we are trying to emphasize is that, economic growth should go or balance with decent work. So what it says is that we need to promote inclusive and sustainable economic growth, employment, and decent work for all. In 2019, 22% of the world's youth were not engaged in either education, training, or employment. More than 1 in 6 young people have stopped working since the onset of the pandemic, and those who remained employed have seen their working hours cut by 23%. So this is actually, in the recent years, we have been, seeing a lot of emphasis from the public sector in announcing vacancies. So that is what actually the thing is, that especially when pandemic hit the economy badly, and also, one school of thought says that we are not seeing V-shaped recovery, we are facing K-shaped recovery. So one set of people, it is economic growth, whereas other set of people, they are facing degrowth. So this is the context in which, the employment receives much greater attention. The next goal is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. It says that we need to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. See, today we are all assembling here from various parts of the country, and even like one example is Ranjit Krishnan, who is even abroad. So we are able to do it because we are having access to the internet and we are having access to this app. But the fact is, only 54% of the global population use internet. In the least developing countries, only 19% have online access. So this is what actually, as I told you, if you look at the numbers, we will understand that, look, I mean, yes, the state of affairs is not what we are thinking. They are actually grave in some parts of the world, and that is where the SDGs try to step in. Reduced inequalities. So what it says is that to reduce inequalities within and among countries. So that is also one thing. Within the country, you need to have balanced economic growth or economic development. Similarly, between countries also, the disparity should be reduced. And what it says is that, look, I mean, that's what actually what you have to notice is that inequality, it is not, income inequality. It actually has a broader perspective, and it includes not only income, sex, age, disability, race, ethnicity, religion, and so on. The list goes on. And if you look at that way, inequality is growing for more than 70% of the global population, which is correct, because see, every other day we are, or every other month, especially when the stock markets are on an upward trajectory, we get to hear that, this many people have become dollar billionaires, and also now we are we are actually speculating on who would be the guy who will be becoming the first dollar trillionaire. So if, that is the trajectory of the growth, then there is another set of people where, their rate of growth, see, it's not that, in absolute numbers, they may not be facing a reduction in their income or in the wealth, but that is at the lower level. And that would mean that the disparity between these people, the different strata of the society, it will only increase. So that is where actually, this goal is saying that you have to look at reducing the inequalities. The 11th SDG it says that we have to, have a system where the cities and communities are sustainable. What best example I can give than the case of Delhi? Why I'm saying is, we get to hear about Delhi being in the wrong side of reporting of the news because of the air quality index. So this is the point that they are emphasizing by this goal, by meaning that we need to make the cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Now, another example also let me give from the Indian instance. As you know, 90% of the COVID-19 pandemic globally occurred in urban areas. But what is the Indian instance that I would like to emphasize is that you must have read at that point of time when the pandemic broke out that Dharavi, where people were living in small rooms, and also they were sharing those smaller rooms, the risk of outbreak of the pandemic and how the BMC actually had to step up their efforts in that particular area. So this is one another aspect that I can say in addition to the Delhi example, air quality index that I am talking. And when I mentioned Delhi, to be fair to all, 4 billion people, that is almost half of the global population, they are living in cities facing worsening of the air pollution, inadequate infrastructure, as well as inadequate services. So this is what actually the importance of this goal as regards sustainable cities and communities are concerned. And one last point that I would mention here is that it's known, but I am just putting the numbers to it to emphasize that fact. Cities just occupy 3% of the Earth's land, but they account for 60 to 80% of the energy consumption and 75% of the carbon emissions. Now, it is in this context that we have to look at, the central government also, coming out with programs that city development, Amrit, selecting certain cities under Amrit City Plan and all, and having a special blueprint for the development of the cities is to ensure that, at least now we start working in the direction where the city and the community will be in a sustainable level. The next goal, it's about responsible consumption and production. And what it says, see, the slide contains one logo, which actually is representing the circular economy. To ensure sustainable consumption and production pattern is that actually is what the goal is all about. So when I mentioned circular waste, what is it that I can tell, especially where, today we are carrying multiple devices around when we are moving from one place to another, right? Mobile will be there, charger will be there. Electronic waste grew by 38%, but less than 20% of that waste is only getting recycled. So this is one, what I will say, one example, which, the impact of it only will grow because of the way we are actually using or relying on electronic devices going forward. The next goal is about climate action. And in that goal, what it says is that taking urgent action to tackle climate change and its impact. So you all, members of the profession had listened to India also giving its commitments, that is the nationally defined contributions, NDCs, in the COP26 conference. So this is where actually, as I told also in the beginning about the Kashmir example, today, it's not just, something happening once in 10 years. No, it's not about, it's happening in one particular part or one particular state. No, it's happening in multiple places. So this actually means that unless every country, and that is also, adding to the theme of our webinar, which is the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Why it is adding to the theme? Because one country doing it will not help. Similarly, one country not doing it, rest all are doing it. Still that one country can make that entire gains of the rest of the group. Everything gains can be lost just because of one country not doing it. So that is where actually the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is, that all our stakes are, having the same direction. We have to act together. We have to act in coordination with each other, which is actually the last goal. But what I'm saying is we have to take concerted actions. That's what actually, then only you can tackle this global effect. Everybody need to work together to reduce the carbon footprint, and that's where actually, I really compliment the institute and especially the SSB for having come out with the guidance note also. I mean, I had seen it in the homepage, and thank you also that members can log in and download and read the document. So that is about climate action. Next is the life below the water. And what it says is that to conserve and sustainably use the world's ocean, seas and marine resources. Reason is that one is, it is not only that, they occupy a larger area than the land, considering the total area of the earth, but also is that, they provide a source of livelihood. But more importantly, this global warming, the impact of global warming is to some extent, reduced because of the oceans. And if we are continuing to pollute the oceans, just dumping all the waste, especially plastic and everything into the oceans or any of the, water bodies, that is how we should put it. And, what happens is that the marine life will get affected. And of course, also the reason of the global warming resulting in the rise in the mean sea level, which has resulted, in all countries, especially the coastal ones, and even other countries which are not fully affected, large ones, the cities which are closer have got affected. So this is also another one important goal. And the next goal is about life on land. So that is what actually, so from the ocean, now we come to the other smaller one, which is the land. And it says that to sustainably manage the forest, combat desertification, halt and reverse land degradation, and halt biodiversity loss. So this is where actually, we need to have the forest, because ultimately they absorb the carbon dioxide and they just give out the oxygen. So we just had learned about photosynthesis even in our school days. So that is what actually, recently I attended a meeting where one of the financial sector regulator, they were saying that nowadays when you extend a loan, we insist that you also plant a tree in that particular locality, so that you can also market it as suppose that an insurance company is promoting, while selling a insurance policy that look, you also plant a tree. So it could be like a Bima one in that locality. So what I'm saying is we need to just make concerted efforts, because when you look at what was agreed upon to reduce the carbon footprint so as to bring our carbon emissions to net zero, when that goal was set with 2030, the actions that were required to be taken compared to what actually we have taken, there is a big gap. So we are falling behind. Also, there are two more factors are there. The amount of finance, that is where actually, professionals like CMAs will be interested, is that From the climate finance point of view, there is a large gap because one is finance, other is technology. So technology, of course, there are demands on the developed countries to make available the technology to the developing countries, and also some transfer of resources also have to, have been committed by them. But that also, compared to what has to be done, it is so far not happening. So that's what actually, when you look at the current state, yes, we need to do more than what we have been doing. And that's where I am even also telling you that, look, India, we have given in that COP26 the goal of reaching the net zero goal by 2070 only. But one example that I can give is that Indian Railways, where the total passengers in a year, annual passengers in the Indian Railways, that number is larger than the world population. But they have given, one of the example that I can give in the context of our nationally defined contribution is that Indian Railway has said that, look, we will become net zero by 2030. So I'm just going to the next goal, which is peace, justice, and strong institutions. Now, what this is telling about is that we need to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. So here actually is where, when we talk about institutions of the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and also the civil society or the fourth estate or the press. So also, the democracy, the values of democracy, these are all the institutions that have to be there. To give one example, we spoke about COVID, but if you look at the events that have happened after COVID, which had a global impact, we have seen the Russia-Ukraine war. Then we read about the Israel and the Hamas war, which is happening. And also, we can say that, some effect of it is, like US hitting many of the targets, and then that actually resulting in the international trade through the Red Sea getting affected. So what I'm saying is, this is where actually these type of things, if these institutions are missing, what happens is that, I will give one example. In 2019, the number of people fleeing war, persecution and conflict exceeded 79.5 million, the highest ever. That was at that time. But today, the numbers will be much larger because of just Ukraine and Israel and the West Bank. So this is the what actually the essence of this goal is. And the last goal is that, partnership for development. Now, why this is important? One is that like one world, one family, but it has to be coordinated and concerted actions by all the people. It cannot be that, one particular person or country or an entity can remain outside of it. Everybody has to come together, join hands as a global partnership for sustainable development. And that is where, even this COP is also actually under the UN umbrella. All the COP conferences that are Conference of the Parties for Climate Related Action, they are also happening under the umbrella of the UN. So this is overall, I thought about, rather than just telling you about the SDGs, I thought I will just give you the numbers or the examples to make things clear, because it's not as, I will tell you one thing, some perspectives we may have, but all perspectives, for all these 17 things, how things are. And that's what actually, we have to also think that this has actually, had to be adopted even after Millennium Development Goals were there in existence for 15 years, number one. Now, the last question, last slide that I would like to present before you, before I just wait for question, is that so like we also adopted this in the September 2015 UN General Assembly, and we have been preparing the progress report on where we are standing compared to the goals that we have set, and also where we were at the beginning of adoption of this goal. So overall, what I will tell you to just gather from this slide is that red is aspirant, yellow is performer, green is front runner, blue is achiever. So the positive thing is that we are nowhere, none of our states nor union territories are an aspirant. We are either a performer or a front runner, rather a front runner. Many of our states are front runners, but achiever status, just like we don't have an aspirant, we don't have an achiever also. So what is it that again I am trying to tell is that we need to look at all our priorities to see to it that the path that we are following is an inclusive and sustainable one, and inclusive, where it has to be like the disparity that results because of the growth, that will be minimal. That disparity should be minimal. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I will be looking forward to answering the questions if there are any.
Yes, sir. So we have received questions. So the first one is life below land. There are some SEBI initiatives like blue PLA, blue bonds, etc. So can you please guide?
Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, I just, in the interest of time, emphasized on SDG because that is the topic. But yes, so one is that Chairman actually mentioned about BRSR. Then actually, I mentioned in the presentation that look, climate finance is a big issue that we need to tackle. And in that context only, we have come out with two avenues. So one avenue is what actually you have mentioned in the question, which is the blue bond. So I will tell you what it is. In 2017, SEBI had come out with the definition of green bonds. So that is climate related finance only, that suppose companies want to raise the resources for climate finance activities, they can come and raise the securities by issuing the bonds. They can raise the required capital, and only thing is that the objective should be for climate finance related activities. It should be for mitigation or adaptation activities which flow out of the climate risk. So that was the definition of green bond. Now, there were not many issuers who had come and tapped the Indian securities market by issuing bonds and raising the climate finance. So we actually had a relook at that policy, and what we did is that we actually brought in some additional categories. So what you mentioned, blue bond, that is for ocean related activities. If you are coming and raising the money from the Indian securities market, and that security is a bond. So under green bond, one of the category is blue bonds. Now, two more categories have also been defined in that one. One of it is yellow bonds. You can guess it, that is for solar energy. And I mentioned about India Prime Minister giving the commitment for nationally defined contributions in the COP26, one of the things he announced there is the setting up by India's initiative or leadership, ISA, International Solar Alliance. So that is the context in which, solar energy that we are trying to tap. And last thing that I would like to say in the context of this yellow bond is also, you must have listened to one of the announcement by Prime Minister in the month of January that, rooftop solar, what you call that, you can set up that rooftop solar energy, that cells, battery cells, solar panels rather, and every household can even try to generate their own energy requirements or electricity requirements, and if there is surplus they can sell also. But this is also an announcement, to make finance available for that purpose, to enable households to put that solar panels on their house rooftops. Then the last thing I wanted to tell about is that, in addition to this blue bond and yellow bonds, we also had come out with another category under the green bond, which is the transition bonds. Now, transition bond is like for mitigation and adaptation on account of the climate risk. Any finance that has to be done, you can issue the transition bonds. So this is what it is as regards the initiatives from SEBI. And another thing that I would like to say is that, see, you must have also heard about masala bonds. Some of these corporates, which are reluctant to issue. One of the factors is that the rate of interest that you have to offer on that bond in India will be higher than the rate of interest that is prevailing abroad, which will be your cost of raising that debt capital abroad. So that is one of the reasons. So some of these companies have gone abroad and raised what you call green bonds. By issue of green bonds, they have raised the capital. So they are known as masala bond. So that is also there. So ultimately, many of you are working in the finance departments of companies. So actually, of course, you will look at the cheapest form of debt capital available. So you always look at optimum cost of capital, right? So that is what it is. But we have options like this available, but they are not, as of now, let me tell you, they are not so popular among the corporates.
Thank you, sir. So we have one more questions. Next we can pick up. It is one question from CME Akhilesh. What are the challenges for Indian states to be achievers?
So Akhilesh, see, it's a it appears to be a simple question, but it is not so straightforward. Reason is that, see, as I mentioned, it is 17 goals. So if you look at that list which I had projected before, see, there are states which are in the higher category because they have performed well in some of the indicators. Now, why I'm saying that is because to become achiever, you have to have a holistic approach to all the SDGs. That is the one only one thing. So if you have found, like I will tell you, see, I work in the securities market, so I am just giving you this example, which you can verify from the data available in the SEBI website in the form of SEBI bulletin or anything. If you look at the city-wise distribution of turnover on the stock exchanges, Mumbai, including Thane, Delhi, a few cities, they are actually accounting for large part of the turnover. So why I just gave that example is to tell you that one of the things that we looked at is the, everything flows out of employment and income that you will get as a result of the employment. Some of the states are far ahead of the other states in terms of the total state GDP, state domestic product, SDP, which is actually the income from that particular state only. So what I am trying to tell you is that itself is one of the starting points that we can consider. if you have to have a plan towards everybody moving towards, or many people at least, or some people moving towards achiever status. That's why, today, let me tell you one more thing. We are having a target of becoming a $5 trillion economy. The timelines or the goalposts are, highly volatile there. But what I want to tell you is that even when you look at for the entire country, a $5 trillion target, there are a few states which have put $1 trillion state domestic product target. If all states are looking at that one, because ultimately it is only if you have a cake, then it can be cut and shared. Everybody can have a pie of it. So that is where actually again I will just saying achiever means you need to have a holistic approach to all the goals. But more than that, what I want to tell you is, so even the people who are high up in the index, there are also few indicators they are doing much better. It doesn't mean that in all they are doing equally good. If that was the case, they would have been achievers altogether by now.
Yeah. So there's another question. Population explosion all over the world is the real problem. So what is the SDG we have to address this problem?
I have a different point of view, because see, even you look at our Indian case, what I'm saying is this is just a phenomenon everywhere. If you look at the global growth of population, now it's at a steady rate. Now, why I'm saying I have a different point of view is that earlier population was growing, or the growth of population was at a higher rate because birth rate was there, that was growing up, and death rate, because of the advancements in medical facilities or healthcare and also other social infrastructure, that was resulting in steep fall in the death rates. Today, the birth rate and death rate are almost same. That's why if you look at the global figure, and even Indian case also, it is like almost a steady growth rate. So that's not the problem. The problem lies in, I will tell you, see, you got it wrong. Or I mean, let me give my perspective. My perspective is that the challenge going forward will be the aging population. The earning population will be actually coming down as a percentage of the total population in some of the countries. Japan is one classic case of, people are more number of people are in retired or in the higher age group than working. But that is where today, when you talk about India becoming a economic superpower, or India becoming a developed country status by 2047, the key to that is the age profile of our population, wherein substantially high percentage is in the youth, and also another set of people are there in the earning group.
Thank you, sir. So we will be taking two more questions, sir. So two last one. So
Yeah.
The next one is how the work growth goal will be achieved if there are inequalities. As per one research report, there were 240,000 job cuts in IT sectors in 2023, which was almost 50% higher than the previous year. Could you please put some light on this?
So that is, I agree that employment, see, there are two things. I fully agree with you. That is why, the government itself is advertising that, look, I mean, this many jobs have been created. I mentioned that also in the presentation. Another thing is that, of course, IT, of course, earlier it was work from home, then issues relating to moonlighting, that was there, and cuts are there. Fact is that, one, the global growth, it is not as rosy as we are having, it is actually global growth is actually global growth rate is coming down, which means that export of our services, I mean, I am referring to the IT example that you gave. So export of our software services will come down, which will mean that they will be forced to cut down the number of jobs they are having, the number of people in their payrolls. But what it will result is that what I am foreseeing is what actually the government initiatives are also side by side to promoting employment in the, I mean, creating employment in the public sector, is that what I'm seeing is that they will actually provide opportunity for people to be entrepreneurs. So many people, rather than looking, like me, like starting a venture or an enterprise, than being in the payroll of be it SEBI or in a company. So I would feel that, considering the incentives for small and medium enterprises, considering the incentives regarding startups, there will be many people who will become entrepreneurs, which will mean that they will provide employment. But your observation, I agree, it's a problem because, like not everybody will be, I mean, capital constraint, but of course, things will change. And of course, our perspective also is to not, I mean, to be a safe side, getting a job rather than starting from the beginning as a entrepreneur. So we may have to change a paradigm. We may have to see a paradigm shift there in the attitude. But I agree with you. But this will be what will be the outcome of that one.
Thank you, sir. So the last question, sir. Is the interim budget SDG friendly? And what are the specific sustainability areas covered in the budget?
As you said, interim budget was a bought-on account. And let me tell you, I mean, I am working in SEBI, so the statement that I will be making, because I am working in a regulator, I mean, and commenting on the government's budget, this is a disclaimer that, it's a personal view and not the stand of the organization. That said, so let me go back to what I said. It is a vote-on account only. You must have seen there were no change in the tax policies. And if you read it, it was more of the initiatives that the government has taken over these 9 years or close to 10 years. So in that sense, I will say that, see, you have to see, look, SDG, that's what I'm telling you. Don't bring SDG into an interim budget wherein you cannot have policy announcement or larger outlays. Defense, they have actually increased the outlay, and of course, I will just connect it with the previous question. See that for the youth, that fund that they have set up, so that is for promoting employment, for entrepreneurship. I will not say that this budget, interim budget, is either promoting SDG or not paying attention to SDG. Interim budget is not one where you can have that, but you wait for the full budget in July.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So now with this end of this question and answer session, so at the end, I would like to propose vote of thanks for today's webinar. So at the outset, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to CM Dr. Ashish P. Thate, Chairman of Sustainability Standard Board, and other member of the board for their guidance and motivation that enabled us to undertake more and more such activities for the benefit of members and students of the institute and other stakeholders. So, and we are grateful to CMA Venkateshwaran Ramakrishnan sir, our distinguished speaker for today. It was a real pleasure listening to you, sir, and it was truly a knowledge enriching session on balancing prosperity with posterity, the role of SDGs in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. I am also thankful to all the participants who attended this webinar, and I'm sure that today's detailed and interactive deliberations on the topic will immensely benefit you all. So once again, I thank you all for your kind presence, and now we will be concluding today's webinar by playing Institute's anthem.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति